Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, bringing you another episode of the Pathfinder Occultist Guide, and we are now up to their illusion spells. And we'll be going over those, and just a quick reminder for everyone, the spells that I pick out here are ones that I believe are going to be the most bang for your buck, from a mechanical standpoint. That said, there's no value that can be put on something that's flavor, that fits the theme and motif that you have going for your character, and there is certainly no limit on player creativity or ingenuity. So just because from a math standpoint these spells are generally obviously better than a lot of other spells, there's still something to be said for the fact that with just a little bit of thought, clever application, and possibly selling your DM on just how cool the idea is, you can do a lot with any of the spells on, well, any of the character classes' spell lists. So don't let this stop you from picking a spell that you just really like or have a great idea on how to use. Do that. Do that over this. This is just to help you round out and pick out good spells for those instances where maybe you don't quite know what would be better or what to go with, or to help newer players understand the mechanics of the game a little bit better. So that way they build a character that's effective, instead of something that's just kind of broken and unable to do anything. So again, these guys are just meant to help. Don't take this as set in stone law or anything like that. The only way to play this game wrong is if you're not having fun. If you're not having fun, change it up to do something that is going to be more fun. But with all of that said, let's go ahead and just dive right on into this here. For 0 level for the Occultist in the Illusion School of Magic, we start off with Ghost Sound, and this is actually kind of low-key a really good spell. A lot of veteran players know its qualities, but for you newer players, or players who just haven't really spent a lot of time with the illusion magics, Ghost Sound, its casting time is a standard action. The range is 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels, and it lasts for 1 round per level. And you create a volume of sound that rises, recedes, approaches, or remains fixed in place. You pick out what the sound is that Ghost Sound will be creating, and you can't change it after you cast the spell. You can make the sounds of 4 humans per caster level, or an equivalent volume. You can enhance Silent Image with Ghost Sound, and Ghost Sound can be made permanent. So you're not limited to making human sounds. You're just human sounds is just kind of the volume and metric that they use to kind of measure things with. So if you're a level 4 spellcaster, you can create a volume of sound equivalent to 4, 8, 12, 16 people all together. So you can start replicating things like a burning building, a lion's roar, a carpet of rats just kind of scuttling and skittering across a wooden floor, or stone tiles, or whatever might be appropriate to the situation at hand. It's really only limited by your creativity, and the applications for this spell are actually pretty broad. It's great for distractions, for helping throw people off, illusion spells are just kind of really built into that distraction category, but the only real limits that you have are what your DM will allow you to get away with, and also your own creativity and how you incorporate it into your strategy. And certainly, I think this is worth using for its strategic aspects. And it's nice that it can enhance other spells too. It's pretty solid. And then for your level 1 spell, you have Vanish. And this is a pretty solid pick. It's pretty good. The casting time is a standard action, range is touch, and the effect is on the creature that you touch. And it lasts for 1 round per level. There's a will save to negate it, but why you would, I don't know. This basically works like the invisibility spell for 1 round per level, maxing out at 5 rounds. So the duration being 1 round per level, it maxes out at 5 rounds. It's a nice, handy go-to thing for when you're not looking at anything prolonged. Maybe you've used up all your higher level spell slots and you just have this in your back pocket ready to go, and you really need to get by without attracting attention. This is a solid pick, especially since it's invisibility just with a very shortened duration. So I think it's worth getting. Certainly it seems better than a lot of the other first level illusion spells that the Occultist gets access to. But going on from there, we get to one that is absolutely quality, and it's a spell with quite a bit of history in Dungeons and Dragons, and that's Mirror Image. The casting time is another standard action, range is self, and the duration is 1 minute per level. You conjure 1d4 illusory images plus 1 for every 3 caster levels, and you max out at 8 images total. So even by the time you hit level 20, if you roll a d4, the max that you get a 4 on that d4, the max you will get out of this is 8 copy images. These images occupy your space and will mimic everything that you do. If you're hit by a direct attack, you roll to see if a figment is hit. If it is a figment that's hit, it's destroyed. If an attack misses by 5 or less, a figment is struck and then destroyed. Spells and effects that don't require attack rolls will affect you normally and don't destroy any of the figments. You all react within the confines of that spell. So say you get hit with Fireball or a Dragon's Breath attack. Your images are not destroyed in that. You just take that damage. Hopefully you roll well on your saves. But since we're going for a melee build, even though we do have medium armor and access to shields, it's not as good as having heavy armor to bump up that AC quite a bit more. There are other ways we can boost our armor class, but there are going to come times where we get hit. Mirror Image helps with this quite a bit. Even though at max you're going to only block or prevent 8 attacks with it, this is still worthwhile to have. So definitely pick this one up. But from there, we have another great spell for this melee occultist build that we're running with. And that, for level 3, is Displacement. The casting time is another wonderful standard action. Range is touch, and the target is the creature touched. And the duration is 1 round per level. The spell target appears to be 2 feet away from its true position. The creature gets a 50% mischance as if it had total concealment. However, this doesn't prevent opponents from targeting the creature. True Seeing will see through this spell and reveals the creature's true position. So having enemy attacks have a 50% chance of missing you is awesome. I mean, even if they roll a successful hit, you still roll that mischance, and it still comes down to 50-50. It's, not great as having 75 or 100% mischance, but I doubt we'd really get there. Even still, this is another awesome added barrier for your opponents to have to overcome. Really, really useful for an illusion, for an occultist, and this spell in particular, along with mirror images, I think just really seems to fit in my mind's eye for what an occultist looks like, especially an occultist who's going into a melee. They're going to use the power of their mind to generate all these illusory images and to distort their true position so that way opponents are unable to properly strike them and get a bead on them. I think this fits very, very well. But then, for another spell that fits and is just really, really good, for 4th level, we have Greater Invisibility. Casting time is that wonderful standard action. Range is touch, and the target is self, another creature, or a 100-pound or less object that you touch. The duration is 1 round per level. You render the target invisible. You grant a plus 40 stealth bonus if they stay stationary, or give them a plus 20 if they move. And attacking does not end Greater Invisibility like it does with the regular invisibility spell. Also, the normal invisibility spell does last a while longer, but that's only really a concern if you're going to be doing extended sneaking and stealth and want to avoid being seen. Greater Invisibility is a great way to be slipping in and start sneak attacking, cutting throats, engaging in subterfuge and very quiet, silent wet work kind of things, quietly putting opponents down and all that, and showing no trace of yourself in the process. Also, it's nice in a melee having an opponent not be able to really discern where they need to go to hit you, where they need to swing, and just give them all kinds of penalties and possibly just absolutely whiffing as they just swing about through empty air. One thing to say, though, is that, like with Displacement, True Seeing will go through this. They will spot you if they have True Seeing. Really, True Seeing is going to mess with you a lot, especially as an illusionist. But we still have more spells to come over. At level 5, we have Mislead, and this spell is just hilarious to me on top of being effective. The casting time is a standard action. Its range is 25 feet plus 5 for every 2 levels. The target is yourself and one illusory double that you create. The duration is 1 round per level, and there's an additional concentration plus 3 rounds for the illusory double. You become invisible per greater invisibility. At the same time, an illusory double is created per the major image spell. The double appears in the spell's target range and is free to move as you direct it while you move elsewhere. The image cannot attack or cast spells, but you can certainly have it act as if it were doing so. The invisibility will only last for the 1 round per level, regardless of whether you're concentrating. The illusory double lasts as long as you're concentrating, and then for an additional 3 rounds after you stop doing so. So, another thing that you can do with this spell is you can have the image appear exactly where you're at, right over top of you, doing exactly what you're doing, so that way opponents don't notice you turning invisible, and then the 2 of you can split off, going in opposite directions. The fact that you get a plus 20 bonus stealth on top of it is going to be massively handy, especially if you're not built into going for more of a stealth build, which we're really not. So overall, if you get into a really tight spot, that real rock and a hard place kind of situation, this can be your ticket out. But just bear in mind, if your opponents have True Seeing, you're going to be kind of screwed. And then from there, we have the 6th and final spell level for the illusion spells for the Occultist. And that is Permanent Image, and I love Permanent Image. Casting time is a standard action, range is an incredible 400 feet plus 40 feet per level, and the effect is it creates a figment that cannot extend beyond a 20-foot cube plus 1 10-foot cube per level. The duration is permanent. Once you cast this, it's going. This spell functions like Silent Image, except that the figment includes visual, auditory, olfactory, and thermal elements. The spell is permanent. By concentrating, you can move the image within the limits of the spell's range, but it is static while you are concentrating. So you'll recreate visual effects. That'll create sound. This will create smell, generate heat and cold. It'll look and feel like something real to whoever's observing this and is interacting with it. The only drawback with it is it's static while you're not concentrating on the effect, but for hiding things, laying down an ambush, any number of possible things that you could be, your imagination can dream up for how you would use this spell. There's so much that can be done with this. This is a really, really cool spell. And the nice thing is that it's permanent. Like, there's not a lot of spells that do that on their own without using the permanent spell. So the fact that you can have a permanent illusion that sits in place, regardless of whether or not you're concentrating, that gives you a lot. The fact that this spell covers so many senses gives you a lot that you can work with. It's, again, only limited by your imagination and what you're willing to come up with and what your DM's willing to let you do. And this spell description, I would argue, as a DM, gives you some pretty broad leeway in what you're generating. Like, you can make a a couple of buildings, a small portion of a village, hide something in place there that you don't want people readily getting into. There's just so many different things that you can do. So really, go nuts, have fun with it. This is a great spell to have, and there's not a lot of other choices to pick through. So, have fun with this. But these are just the 6 spells that I think you will have the most bang for your buck on. You will get the most mileage and usage out of these. Assuming that you're not using other spells from the other spell lists, I think these, if you're going the illusion route, will be massively useful. In particular, mirror image and displacement are going to be the 2 biggest benefits to our character from a melee standpoint, from engaging in melee and getting in close with opponents. Those spells will probably see the most frequent usage for you. But of course, as I mentioned before, these are not the only spells on this list. Certainly, the only limits on them are really by your imagination and how you can cleverly apply them, and what your DM's willing to allow you to get away with. But with that said, go on down there in the comments. Let me know what you thought. What spells would you swap out, and which ones would you, change their place with? Let me know in the comments down below, and hit the like button or hit the dislike button if you think I just completely lost the plot and I'm off my rocker. Let me know what you think. But if you're looking for more content, good news for you. There are going to be 2 more videos popping up over here. One is something the almighty, all-knowing, and all-powerful Google has decided you will enjoy. The other is just another video I've done recently. Or hell, if this hasn't been your first stop here at the Gamer's Den, clearly you must be enjoying something with the channel, so why not go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and join us and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. We'd be happy to have you. I'd be happy to have you here. Join us, become a member, join the rest of your fellow alumni. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and tongue-tied storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.